This is the video for exercise 2 from the week 3 modelling exercises. Okay, so start a new part file, and we're going to create the beginning part feature for our component by drawing a circle on the top plane. So select the top plane, create a sketch, choose the circle tool, create the circle, and we're going to dimension it as 100mm diameter with a Smart Dimension tool. That's all we need to create our circle. Even though it's going to be a tube, that's all we need to draw at this stage. Okay, so to turn it into a tube, we're going to use the Extruded Boss Base tool. Now I want to keep my sketch plane, just highlight it, the top plane, in the middle of my component. We'll come back to why that's useful later on. So I'm going to choose a mid-plane extrusion and set it to 30mm. Now to make it into a hollow tube, I'm going to use the Thin Feature tool, and make sure we'll keep it as 10mm wall thickness. Make sure you're offsetting inwards, so the 100mm is the outside external dimension, and that creates the feature. So click the tick to finish. Okay, next step is to start creating one of the side flanges. So again, on the top plane, we're going to create a sketch. If you want to view it flat on, if you right click the plane and choose Normal To, there's a quick way of doing that. Start off by drawing a centre line, which helps us to construct the drawing, and we'll draw it horizontally across. And next we're going to draw the lines, so we have a vertical line and a horizontal line coming back to the edge of the circle. So choose the Normal Line tool. Starting point is coincident with the centre line, vertically up, horizontally back, so it's coincident with the edge of the circle, and end that line tool. I now want to put a corner fillet radius of 10mm, and I can use the Sketch Fillet tool. Put that on the corner, and the only other piece of geometry that I need is the section of the circle from there to the centre line. And the easiest way to do that is come out to a Sketch Fillet tool, select the edge of the circle and choose Convert Entities, which copies the whole of the circle, the edge of that circle, onto the sketch plane. Sometimes takes a little bit of time to work through, and then trim away everything apart from the small section in between. So we choose the Trim Entities tool. I'm going to leave it on Power Trim, and I'll just cross the line on a portion which is no longer required, and it will delete it back to the edge. And click the tick to complete that. Lastly, all I need is a couple of dimensions to finalise the positions of these extra lines. So one dimension from the starting point to the centre line, and we'll make that 75mm, and one that's the width, and make that 20. Now that everything has gone black and it's fully defined, I can carry on and mirror those lines that we just created to create the opposite half of the flange. So I'm going to choose the Mirror Entities tool, select those 4 lines, click in the Mirror About and choose the centre line. You can go to Preview. If that's looking correct, click the tick, and that completes the sketch. So we exit the sketch, and we can now turn it into a flange feature by using the Extrude tool, and I'm going to choose Up to Surface and pick the bottom surface of the object. That means that if I change the size of this central tube, the flange will alter always so that it's half the width of the tube. Okay, click the tick to accept. Right, it's starting to take shape now. Next I'd need to put a couple of radius fillets on the blend between those 2 features. I'm going to use the fillet tool and set a 5mm fillet and just pick 3 edges that are in contact with the tube. Accept that. And then the last thing is to create 2 holes, counterbored holes, in the flange, and I'm going to use the hole wizard to do that. So I launch the hole wizard. We want an M6 counterbored hole. So once the hole wizard has opened, we can see sometimes takes a while. Check the counterbore option. I'll set it to ISO settings. We'll use a socket head style cap screw hole. We'll set it for M6 normal fit. Through all is okay. Leave it as the default options. So with a near side countersink, we'll leave it like that. If you want to put something different in there, you're welcome to do that. Now we need to select the positions, and we start first of all by just picking anywhere on the face that we want, and then select a second time. As you can see, they've just been randomly positioned, so it's important that we now define those positions accurately. So just unclick the point tool, which is the tool which is used to create those positions, and choose the Add Relation option. And on each side, for each one, I want the whole to be concentric with the radius on the sketch. So if you pick the centre point and a radius, you can choose a concentric mate, and then do the same on the other side. So they're both concentric, and click the tick to complete, and that completes the flange. The final step for the flange construction is to mirror that feature so we have exactly the same feature on the other side of the tube. So for this I want to choose the mirror tool, the plane that I want to mirror about will be the right plane. Depending on how you've constructed this first flange, it could potentially be the front plane as well. Features that I want to mirror are going to be all three features used to create the flange. So boss extrude 1, fillet 1, and the hole wizard counterbore hole. So we select all three of those and accept. Right. The final step of the exercise is to put some countersunk holes around the circumference of the tube, avoiding where we've got the flanges. And again, for that I'm going to use the hole wizard. This time it's a countersunk hole. Again, ISO. There are options. I think we'll just stick with a flat ISO. We'll choose an M5 countersunk. This time the end condition we need to alter, because through all, if we put a countersunk with through all, it will go through this wall, straight across and out the other side, and all we want it to do is go through to the internal skin. So I'm going to change the condition from through all to up to next. And positions, I just click somewhere on the cylindrical face of the tube. I'm only going to position 1, and I want it to be at the, if you like, the 6 o'clock position, halfway up the side of the tube. And to do that, I'm going to add relations, click the point, and this time I'm going to pick two planes. I'm going to pick the top plane, which is the plane the sketch was created on, and the right plane. And notice the option that I've got on the relations now is for intersection. And when I click that button, it pulls the centre point of that hole so that it's on the intersection between those two planes, which is where I want it to sit. And click the tick to accept that position. Lastly then, to create the pattern of holes all the way around, I will use circular pattern tool. The countersunk hole was already selected, but if it isn't, you can pick it either by picking a face of the object in the features to pattern toolbox. Now I've got to pick the centre of rotation, so select the top box in the parameters there, and I can pick any circular feature, so it could be an edge or a face of this tube, internal face if I wanted. If I pick that face, it chooses the centre point where this arrow symbol is positioned as the rotational centre, and I can put in how many features I want to create. It has defaulted on mine to 8, but if that doesn't on yours, change it so that we've got 8 instances of the hole, equally spaced around 360 degrees. Now the only other thing that we don't really want are the 2 instances where they are sitting in line with the flange. And to move those, or get rid of those, if I choose instances to skip down here, just click on the arrow symbol to open up the tool. When that's enabled, it gives you these magenta points on each instance of the pattern, and these act as on-off toggles. So if I click on the magenta button, I can toggle off those instances, leaving a little orange dot which would allow me to turn them back on again if I wanted to. And that looks good to me, so click the tick, and that completes the exercise.